Welcome back to the Smugglers Den. I'm your host, Tiny Grimes, and we are here on episode 8. And before we get rolling, a couple things. First of all, thanks so much to swdestiny.com for hosting the Smugglers Den, for being a great Destiny resource. If you haven't been there, go check them out now. Also, thank you to Broken Egg Games for your continued support of the program. If you want to support the program without even doing anything, go to their site. Go buy all the awesome stuff they have that you were going to buy anyway. When you go to checkout, put TG Games in the discount code coupon. And finally, thanks for supporting me on Patreon /Tiny Grimes. We're having all kinds of discussions over there. I want to thank Jason, Doug, Andrew, and Michael, our new Patreons this week. Thank you so much. Thank you for the support. And I am joined, as I've been joined for like 6 weeks in a row. I'm darn tempted to call this person a co-host. But man, that title, you got to earn it. At least 30 in a row. Welcome, Jason Flanzer. How you doing today?
I'm doing all right. It's good to be back as your regular co-host.
Wait. Did you just call yourself co-host? You cannot self-designate co-host.
I think in 30 episodes I get to be the host.
Are you going to murder me? Is this going to be like I'm Palpatine and you're Darth Maul, and in this canon you kill Palpatine? Is that what's happening?
I mean, it certainly would have been better to see more Darth Maul in the prequels.
Yeah. So. Just imagine a whole new Star Wars franchise where Darth Maul killed Palpatine and then he trained Anakin Skywalker in the ways of the dark side. That could have been a cool deal.
I don't think he has the skills that Palpatine did to be such a sneaky bastard the whole time.
He doesn't have to be. He just walks into places and kills everyone with his double-bladed saber, and then they listen.
It's pretty sweet.
He's like, I am in charge of the Senate. And they're like, you're clearly a Sith Lord. And he just wings his double-bladed saber, takes off 12 heads, and they're like, you are the head of the Senate. We were totally wrong on that. Our bad. All right.
He's pretty badass. I do miss him. I'm excited to see him in Star Wars Destiny for sure.
Yes. Yeah, that'll be cool. So what have you been up to, Jason? We had our game night last night. Man, I love those. Every week I've been bringing new decks that I've been liking. What have you been up to this week?
Played in a tournament, played in the game night, had a lot of fun. I guess I played 2 tournaments in the last week, if that's correct, and it's just been a lot of fun.
Yeah, this guy's a tournament man. Let's talk about that tournament we both went to, because it was a pretty critical moment. What I mean by that, it was a 30-person tournament, so that is really big for like a random store I've never been to that doesn't really have a Destiny community built in. On a Saturday, no big prize, no prize at all other than the game night kit. But what they did do that was really cool is they decided to emulate a major event. So there were timed Swiss rounds. We cut to the top 4. Cut was 90 minutes and then 120 minutes for the finals. So let me start here, Jason. What did you think about the Swiss rounds? I know I had stated before I was a little concerned about the time. What was your takeaway from the Swiss?
I think they were great. I think that as we play more Destiny, you're going to be able to play with your control decks a little bit faster, being able to make that 35 minutes really sing. I think it was perfectly fine if you were done in 10 minutes because you blew someone up with Jango Fett. It wasn't too long to wait around. And in the same token, I saw a lot of great decks. Mill decks were performing. Control decks were performing. So I think 35 minutes is perfectly fine for a game that is already set up and ready to go. And I was very pleased with it.
Yeah, I would agree. I was quite tentative going in. I purposely brought a slower control deck to really test this out, right? Like I had an aggro deck I liked a lot, but I said, you know what? I love this control Jabba Dooku deck. I'm bringing it. And I agree. In 3 of the 5 Swiss rounds, it was no problem, including me milling out a Padme Trooper mill deck. So that was fun. We went all the way to the end, milling each other, and we still had about 7 minutes to spare. It worked great.
Yeah, as long as you're efficient, I really don't find that this game takes too long. The problem is sometimes it does, just because certain circumstances, certain situations, and we do want to make sure that we're resolving those. And I think that in 35 minutes, we're able to do so as long as we're set up, ready to go. And I think that was a perfectly fine time frame. There were a lot of games ending in the last 5 minutes.
Yes.
And I think that that's okay.
Yep.
And that's good. That means that we got the time as right as it needs to be.
Yeah, I had 2 games that went long. One went down to about the last minute, and I'll get into that when we talk about tournament etiquette a little bit, what happened there. And the first game was kind of my biggest fear, right? I played a control deck. I played against a guy. He was not slow playing me at all. He was just new. It was like turn 1, he draws up his cards, he mulligans. He is like, okay, it's your turn, go. And he's like, okay. He sits there for like a minute and a half. I was like, these are timed rounds, sir. Like, you got to do something. I realize it can be overwhelming, but you're going to have to make a choice. And I didn't say anything there because just when I was about to, he played. But when we got to about 9 minutes left and we were still like in the mid game and my deck goes late game, I didn't say anything mean, but I was just like, hey, just want to remind you there's only 9 minutes left. The game's moved a little bit slower than it needs to for this time limit. And he was like, oh, I'm so sorry. And he was really cool about it. And he was way behind anyway, so it wasn't really an issue. But I hate having to do that with newer players. And that's kind of the thing that bugs me about the time.
Yeah, I think that's going to slowly clear away. You're going to get that specifically in early rounds. You're going to get some newer players. We have to kind of break in the Star Wars destiny as far as competitive play is concerned. So this is standard, and, being cordial and being honest and open and forthright with your opponent, it's always good, even if it is reminding them, just let you know this is timed. But I think in the end it will be totally acceptable, and I think that we will grow to really fit into this 35-minute mold very well.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think what you said is really important, that it made it so that there wasn't a ton of downtime, right? Like if you're an aggro deck and you win in 7 minutes with Django Veers and the round is an hour, it's a pretty torturous day because all your games are ending early. And 35 minutes is pretty nice. Like if you end early, it's actually great. It's like 15 minutes to get your stuff together, to get your head right for the next round. I actually really liked how snappy it was. And at the end of Swiss, I heard a whole bunch of people, like the people who didn't do that well, sort of just talking and hanging out. And they're like, that was really fun. I can't believe we got a whole tournament in under 3 hours. That was great. We could never do this in Magic or whatever game they were talking about. And I really thought that was wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, I played a really aggressive deck in Game of Thrones last regional season, and I had like 4 or 5 games where I was sitting around for about 45 minutes. And it was really frustrating, yeah.
Those are the worst.
So it feels good. It feels good.
Okay, so that's Swiss. I think we agree. Swiss is a success. My fears are, a little bit grounded, but I think it's worth it. I think even if a couple games go to time, to make such a quick, snappy Swiss, it's worth it.
And I want to say something before you move on.
Yeah.
That it definitely, and we're going to talk about this again and again with the tournament format, but you have to put your foot down. You have to make a decision, and we believe that 35 minutes is appropriate. Yes. Could it be longer? Yes. Could it be shorter? Yes. But this is a very appropriate thing, and we're going to talk about that when we come to tiebreakers, and we're going to talk about that when it comes to the Swiss or the non-Swiss rounds. You have to make something that is understandable and within reason. So as we move forward, do keep that in mind. Specifically when it comes to tiebreakers, you're like, well, I think it's bullshit that this is the tiebreaker. Well, it had to be something. Yeah, it has to be a tiebreaker. So continue.
I think it should be cooler hat, and then I just wear this hat.
You'd lose a lot of games when people start wearing hats.
Whoa. That co-host title that you were so close to, it's dissipating quickly, sir.
Make sure to drop your thoughts about this hat in the comments of this YouTube.
Please don't.
I'm super excited. I'm super excited to see what people say. That's a yes.
Okay, let's talk about the cut. So I'm taking away. I'm not going to talk about what happened to me in the cut at first. I think that's irrelevant because I think the point is, we talked about this a lot last week. We did the breakdown of the timing, and it's less time per round. So we said 35 minutes is fine. A lot of games were going to those last 5 minutes, and that's fine as well. But if you do the breakdown of the cut, each game is like 29 minutes. And for a lot of games, they wouldn't have finished. And it feels really weird to have games that are shorter in the cut than in the Swiss. So it feels too short to me still. What do you think, Flanzer?
Yeah, it feels too short. Once again, we have to talk about this reason that we're talking about. We were talking about the Django Veers player who was finishing games in 10, 15, maybe even 20 minutes. Yeah. Okay, so if they finish 3 games doing that, they're also sitting around for an unreasonable amount of time. And then on the flip side, you have people who can't finish their games in this amount of time, meaning that doing something like this is rather painstaking and is likely not – it might not be good for the health of the game. Now, fortunately, if you're only cutting to a top 4, maybe a top 8, you're only getting really, hopefully, experienced players who kind of understand the situation, but you still don't want to put those people in that kind of situation.
Yeah. For me personally, I ended up with Jabaduku against Jabaduku in the 4, and we played really fast, and we could not finish 3 games. And it was a scenario where I did lose the first game, and I would have just resigned early had it been a blowout, because that's the smart thing to do. But I was actually winning until the last round. It's like I took the battlefield. We both had a mind probe and a bunch of other force powers. I roll mine, snake eyes, all blanks. He rolls his. It's like special on the probe, special on the throw, a whole pile of damage. And I'm like, well, I lose. Like, I was winning going in that last turn, but now I'm dead. So it was a scenario where I couldn't even resign. We played very quickly. When we started the 3rd game, we only had 29 minutes left. And it's like, well, this could end in 29 minutes if, like, we're both going to mulligan for damage cards, right? Because that's the tiebreaker. And we did that. He got a Kylo Saber turn 1. I didn't. I ended up with all the mill cards because there's the mill variant. And so I ended up milling the heck out of him. He was way down on cards, but time is called, and I have less health because he pulled a Kylo Saber and I did not. So it's a disappointing way to finish 90 minutes. And like you were saying, it's not just that 90 minutes is too short. 90 minutes is really, really long to play Destiny at a high level when you're used to these really snappy 35-minute rounds. It's like, okay, the game's over. You don't get to take a breath. You don't get to do anything. You got to clean up as fast as humanly possible, shuffle them out, throw them back out, go again. I heard someone talking about how cool it is that you get to see their decks and really evaluate. In what time? You don't have time to take a breath, let alone really think carefully about every card in their deck, go through their discard pile, really be observant. Like, you should be doing that, but it's tough. It is tough to do anything in that time.
Yeah, it does seem tough. It's just really frustrating because my theory, or what I desire in the tournament, is that you do get that chance of redemption. If you lose your first game, you can still win your next 2 games. And I think that's really important, to be able to have a chance to redeem yourself. Sometimes luck doesn't go your way. But we also have to consider that this is a card game with dice, so there is going to be luck that factors into it. That's why you get a little bit of cushion from the Swiss, and then you're going to get a little bit of cushion, hopefully, in the final format, or in the final rounds of the format. So we need to, I personally believe an alternate solution would be best, as long as it still provides that cushion but gives us the snappiness that we're looking forward to from the Swiss rounds.
I want to turn real quick to the other game. So my game went full 90. I'm an exhausted wreck at the end of that game because the end of the game was real ugly, and I really felt like time twisted things up a lot. The other game was a complete reverse. It was a Django Veers versus a Luke Akbar. Django Veers blew him up in like 17 minutes. So this dude is sitting there for like an hour and 15 minutes, consistently coming over, looking at our game, bugging us nonstop. How many games in are you guys now? Have you finished the first one? Did you finish the second one now? Are you guys on the 3rd game yet? Who's winning? I'm tempted to turn to him and be like, shut the F up, dude. We're in the middle of a tense series here. What is your problem? But I know his problem. His problem is, I've been sitting here forever waiting for you dang guys to hurry up.
Yeah, so it's frustrating to be him. It's frustrating to be you, and it just doesn't feel great. It really doesn't. And and not that I was necessarily in that position with you guys, but it was. I completely understand, because I've been there, specifically in miniature tournaments where we're playing 2-hour rounds, where generally the games are more consistent in their time frame, but sometimes you're playing something really fast, and you literally could like go drive out and like make your own deep dish Chicago pizza, have it cooked, eat it, and come back. You know,
this is the best part of all, though. So the guy's like, okay, cool, good job, you guys are the finalists. Now you get to play a best of 3, 120 minutes. And they looked at each other and they were like, this dude is out of his freaking mind if he thinks we're going to play 2 more hours of Destiny for 1 round when it doesn't matter. You know what? Let's just split first prize, because we're both getting like a Kylo Ren alt art anyway, and there's no money on the line, and boop, tournament ended. Yeah, so I think it's pretty clear that this is going to be frustrating, especially imagine a top 8 in that scenario, right? Yet another round of that. There's gonna be a lot of sitting around. It's gonna be tense in not a good way. Yes.
So I really like a lot of the solutions that you and I have come to agree with, that possibly a double elimination format where you're still just playing the single games, and the time frame can still be actually pretty long, but the reality is no one's sitting around, and also all the people who want to play longer decks are a little more comfortable in the seat that they're in because they have the time to perform their deck.
Yep. I really, but to be clear, we're talking about in the Swiss doing double elimination, not sorry, in the cut, not in the Swiss. The Swiss
the
is
Swiss
awesome.
Still doing a standard Swiss, and then going to a 35 or 40-minute double elimination. So you just play. We, like, maybe Tiny and I get matched up in the top 4. We play one game. The loser then goes to a loser's bracket where they have another chance to play through and get to the finals. The winner of the winner's bracket would have to lose twice to the winner of the loser's bracket to lose the tournament, and then he only has to beat the loser's bracket player only once. This gives them, once again, it gives them that cushion where sometimes fate has something different planned for you than what your intent was going into the game. Yeah. That's okay. You still have to lose twice to lose the tournament, and this way it's snappy, like you said, 35, 40-minute rounds. It's going to be a lot easier on people, and also keep things a lot more contained. You're not going to have a guy scouting and watching every play because he finished faster.
Yes.
And you want to give more advantages to that. We want to make sure that the breadth of the game and the success of the game and the ways that you can play this game that makes it truly great can actually perform in a tournament format.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the choice is either you go something like double elimination or you extend the cut before the finals like another 15 minutes, and that just exacerbates all of the problems. Like, yes,
you can't extend the round. I agree. You can't extend the round.
It's ugly. Yeah, so
it should be another 15 minutes, but that's even worse.
Yes.
So it's like,
yeah,
let's stop putting band-aids over the problem and start finding a solution.
Yep, I totally agree. Otherwise, like I said, the cut. I mean, the Swiss was so fun. It fits Destiny so well. I feel like one of the things I love so much about Destiny, I sit down, I play a game, it moves quick, the game ends fairly quickly. It's not, a Game of Thrones hour game. It starts, it ends. You can play more games in a day. It just feels fast. I really enjoyed the Swiss.
And you could continue to have that feeling, like we said.
Yeah, exactly. All right, I want to talk about some tournament etiquette real quick. And this is not to call anyone out in particular, not using names. The point, though, is if somebody is playing a game, you don't talk to them. You just don't. You don't talk to them. In the Swiss, this became a real problem. It was the second to last round of Swiss. I was playing somebody. We were at 2 minutes on the clock. 2 minutes. This dude just sits down and starts talking to us. He's like, hey, guys, this is a good one. Man, I finished a while ago. You guys are really going on the wire here. Oh, you got Luke Akbar, huh? How's that working out? I'm just like, what? What is happening right now? Is this guy really striking up a conversation with us in the middle of our game with 2 minutes left? Is he insane?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly not. It's certainly not good for a lot of reasons, but you shouldn't be near other people's games anyways. I don't think there's a scouting. Is there a scouting clause in the tournament rules? But I don't believe there is. Really,
I don't know if there is, but there should be.
In the FFG games, I have seen the scouting thing come up. That's the only reason I say that. You really shouldn't be looking at other people's games in the first place. Obviously, it's gonna happen. We all are gonna look around and stuff, but you shouldn't be analyzing it, much less speaking to them about how the game is going and the contents of their deck while the game's happening.
Yeah, it was very surprising. And this was not a guy at the bottom tables who just kind of wandered over and was curious what was happening. This was the dude who finished at the spot next to us. So this was a top person in the tournament doing this, and it was a particularly shocking moment because I just hadn't come across this in tournaments, because most people sort of have enough sense to know, like, okay, these people are playing in a tournament. I don't talk to them, so it's shocking to me that I have to even put this out there that tournament etiquette says leave people alone when they're playing a tournament game. It's pretty simple.
Yep, I don't think it's needs to have much more than that. Just be courteous.
And I'm sure he wasn't being discourteous in his mind, right? He was just like, I'm being a nice guy, saying hi. So, yeah.
But just not the time. Time and place, my friend.
Exactly. After the game, I would love to say hi to him. He seemed like a very nice man. Okay. Well, Jason, I don't know if you noticed. I put out a lengthy video yesterday about some new spoilers we've got, and I wanted to see what you think about these spoilers also. Does that sound good to you?
That sounds great.
You ready to talk some spoiler time?
I'm ready to talk about it better than you did yesterday.
That is not hard. because yesterday I forgot how to read, and we'll talk about that. So let's start. We're just going to go in order on this particular site. We got the Death Trooper here. The Death Trooper is like a ball of death. This dude is insane. What do you think about the Death Trooper?
I like him. I mean, he's very consistent damage. You're getting the damage sides of the 1, and the 2, and an additional modifier of a +2, all in the gun range. So you're really able to abuse modifiers really well. Cards like Jetpack, cards like all of the pistols that have those modifiers where sometimes you're getting out-controlled. Your Death Trooper is going to be very reliable in getting you those guns. And the flip side of the Death Trooper, the bad part is that he has no resources on his die.
Yeah.
And so he's really limited to what you can do. You may need to bring some additional resource help to be able to play him with ease.
Yeah.
So that is kind of frustrating about him.
He's a funny character because he's 10 cost, 10 health. So you could run 3 of them, have 30 health, which is the current highest health pool you could have. 3 of these insane gun dice, but like you said, 0 resources.
Yeah, I think there's only one way to get 30 health currently, if I'm not mistaken, which is hired guns at Poe.
Maybe
hired guns in Poe is
30?
9, 9, and 12. Yeah, but it's still it's a lot. It's a lot of health. So and they're very efficient. And they don't require resources, which is nice, right? There's no money required. So if you're just rolling those 3 dice every turn, you can have that in the bag. And
I have to assume there's gonna be a whole bunch of new guns that come out. It'd be really interesting if you could make like 3 Death Troopers, 14 guns, and go to town. Like every turn, I mean, dropping 2.
There's already 2 neutral red guns.
Yeah.
There's already 2 neutral red guns and 1 for a villain already. So you're already running 6. So your ability to do whatever you wish with those Death Troopers is going to be there. And there's a spoiler for a card called Supply Line, which also looks datapad-ish. So there's going to be some options for these troopers to put in a little side job and get some extra cash on the side of their Death Trooping.
I feel like if you put a 3 Death Trooper deck in the meta right now, it might be the best deck. I'd have to really research it a little bit more, but it'd be right up there. Like it'd be
no
really
way. Not true. That's just ridiculous.
Not true. That's ridiculous. Okay.
3 Death Troopers is solid. People are like, endless ranks with your Death Troopers. I'm like, well, you better find some money to play endless ranks because
a lot of people commented on my video with that, and I was like, really? No money sides, and you want to pay for guns? How are you paying for your endless ranks? I don't know.
Yeah, at least the Stormtroopers, like, you can say, well, I'm going to run, things like Drudge Work and things like that, and that's helpful. But you're hoping that your opponent can't deal damage to you fast enough, effectively.
I mean, if I have Death Trooper and I'm exhausting them for Drudge Work, I feel like I'm defeating the purpose of the deck at that point.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want your salary guy doing hourly wage. You know what I mean?
Yep.
He's a very good die. He's well positioned at 10 for the 10. There's already a couple villain cards that do that are similarly priced or a little bit less that are characters. Yeah. That being said, he does push that 10 gun spot to a really nice, or the 10, like looking for a gun character in red for 10. It's a nice spot. It feels really good. 10 health feels good too. Overall, I really like the way they did an elite regular guy.
Yeah, I like him a lot. Let's move to Director Krennic, who stole my title of cruel but brilliant.
It's kind of bizarre that that's his title. Which is, I guess his title's in his name, so they kind of just did something else ridiculous. But
he has 12 health. He has a pretty high cost, actually, at 1519. But I feel like this guy is remarkably good and remarkably flexible. I want to talk about his sides real quick, then you can talk about his ability. But his sides are so interesting. So he's got 2 guns, a focus, 2 resource removal, 2 hand disruption, and a resource. So it's like he can go in the hand disruption mill deck with like a Jabba at his 19 is perfect for Jabba. It's perfect for Dooku. Works for a lot of people. He could go in like a more aggressive deck with his gun and his focus and his ability we'll talk about. It just feels like he's an uber flexible character with a large health pool that can do all kinds of interesting things.
Yeah, and as you kind of said in your podcast the other day, it's finally a guy that we might want to put Commanding Presence on.
Yeah.
So it's pretty sweet. Imagine a 4 discard with the Commanding Presence special and his own special, or his own discard. Pretty nice. Solid way to control the hand. And I think that, it's just a very powerful suite of abilities that at any point, you're either focusing getting a resource, which is probably the most unfortunate side you can roll for him, but still you need resources. Yeah. Or you're just doing the damage you need, disrupting their plans, or once again, disrupting their plans with discard. It's a very fun card, and I think he looks really great just on the die alone, much less his ability.
Yeah, I mean, his card art looks cool, too. Look how confident that guy is. He's like, hey, I am Director Krennic.
Yeah, he's pretty awesome looking, but his ability is what really might take the cake, pushing him to potentially the first 3-die character.
Yeah, so what is his ability?
His ability is after you activate this character, caveat, if you control the battlefield, roll a Death Trooper die, which is number 1 in the set. It's the die that we just talked about with the 1/1/2 +2 and a disrupt, into your pool. Set aside that die after it's resolved or removed. So you effectively get to roll up with Critic if you control the battlefield, and when you activate him, you roll 3 dice if you have an elite, or 2 dice if you have a single die Critic.
Yeah. So,
this allows you to really, really do a lot.
It's crazy. People have been talking about, like, what if you go elite Politic and Director Krennic elite? You get 5 dice. It's the first 5 dice character turn 1.
But once again, it's very important that you control the battlefield, which Politique actually has some anti-synergy with, which is kind of interesting. Obviously, on those turns, you're not going to be too upset if you have to reroll Politique and they end up taking the battlefield from you. Yeah. But you do have to keep in mind that is a thing, and there are really aggressive decks with very like-sided dice that they are looking to control that battlefield too. So this is just more red cards looking to control the battlefield. It's clearly a theme in the command branch, and I think it's really great. I think it's really fun.
Yeah, I really like this character. I'm just excited to see what characters work well with him, because all we have to work with is the first set, and in the first set he works great. Like, he's fitting with Dooku and Jabba nicely. It just works so well. I'm eager to see if he continues to work really well with the set 2 characters.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think he's fantastic. I'm really excited to see it.
All right, let's move to the most exciting character, the craziest character I've ever seen. Emperor Palpatine.
He's going to say it like that every time, folks.
Yes. I believe I have a great Palpatine impression. I have been told I do not.
Yeah, I've been told that you look a lot like Palpatine.
Whoa, come on now. A young Palpatine, maybe, when he was virile and amazing.
Yeah, you know how virile he was. I want to mention one thing about Palpatine and one thing in this game that we really haven't, I don't think you and I have explored, and that's, notice his name is Palpatine, right? So he's got the subtitle of Galactic Emperor, but this means there's likely to be other Palpatines, maybe a Senate version in the future, or a different version, or even a really young version of Palpatine, where he's just a Sith Lord running around being, he could be Palpatine with the subtitle Darth Sidious.
Yeah.
So gives a lot of room for him to do lots of really cool things. This one's called Galactic Emperor, and as you said, he's a doozy.
Yeah, I mean, so he is 15 health, which is the highest in the game, but he is 21/28 cost, which is absurd. I mean, when I saw his health and his ability, his dice, I was like, all right, he's going to be good. And then when I saw his cost, I was like, I don't know what they're doing. Like, did they fall down and crack their head open? What's going on? Why would it be so high?
I'm not going to be the guy to say that because I have yet to play a game with Palpatine, so I'm going to go ahead and refrain from calling them crazy for making him. But he does seem to be quite a lot of points for quite few health. He does seem to dish out a lot of damage, and that's because his die alone has a 2 and a 3, both for free on it, as well as a 2 disrupt, a 2 shield, which will help him stay alive, and a 1 resource.
I want to add in this. That's not that much better than Han Solo. Like, that's pretty equivalent to Han. You're trading the 2 disrupt for 2 hand mill, which I would rather have the hand mill. But it's not so different that it makes up for that cost. Not yet.
Yeah, the 2 shields are going to be the notable piece that keeps him kind of alive. Also, Han has to pay for his 3. But yes, it is not much difference. The one thing I'm kind of upset when you pay for 21 or 28 points is that he has a blank. That's kind of frustrating. Even if it was just yet another resource, something just to round him out. Because he's going to need resources anyways because it's only going to be one person if you're playing 2 dice. That's just super frustrating. But clearly, the kicker for this guy is what his ability is. What is it?
Yeah. So after you resolve this die, force an opponent to deal 2 damage to the characters distributed as they wish. So the downside, of course, is that it's harder to blitz people down if they get to distribute it. The upside is if you're playing him, your goal is to kill them, and you have to do all the damage you can to get there.
Yeah, it's just he's slowly melting you with force lightning just throughout every time you see him, just like when he's fighting in the show. This is the Galactic Emperor edition. He's got his hand out, he's hiding, he's on a Star Destroyer, on the Death Star. He is clearly trying to kill people at this point. He's not necessarily pulling the strings as much as Tiny would like, but he is doing a lot of damage. And once you roll your dice, right, you're like, this is my dice. If you don't control them right now, I can resolve them, doing 4 total damage to your characters as well as the effects of the dice.
Yeah, he's I'm returning what you said a little bit of the pulling the strings thing. It's just a weird character. Like, he's clearly a pretty decent aggro character. But why the heck is Palpatine an aggro character anyway? It just makes no sense to me.
See, I'm going to go ahead and counter that with a couple things. One, he is aggressive, but he's just incredibly powerful. And I think that kind of is just kind of what's showing that the damage is how we kind of show power in this game.
Sure.
But additionally, while it is kind of aggressive, it's also kind of long game. It's like if you just sit here and mess with Palpatine, he will slowly take over, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
And that's frustrating. I mean, imagine this, right? You have like a 2 damage side and a 2 discard side, and you're like, I'm going to take the 2 discard, take 2 damage attribute as you wish. And they're like, well, I'm going to put it on this character because he's not, I'll put it on Akbar. He's not Luke. And you're like, great. Now I'm going to play No Mercy, my next action, and kill Akbar. And you're like, oh, crap. That just happened.
I like that.
So you have a lot of flexibility. If they're trying to like wean away from their stronger characters, you can easily take out their support. Or if they're like, well, this character has more health, you still have the ability to mess with that character because you have all these blue cards and cards like No Mercy that you can kind of futz with what they're doing. And I think it's still going to be very powerful and controlling in a way because you're forcing them to make bad decisions, which is always frustrating and fun.
The problem I see with Palpatine is people are usually playing a lot of dice control already, and it's not when you roll his dice you do the damage. You actually have to resolve them. If you roll a blank, you flat out can't resolve it. If you roll any side other than the 3, you can electroshock it. He doesn't like you. You can deflect. You can dodge. Like, there's a million cards that are in the meta that will deal with Palpatine's dice, which will render him almost completely useless with that low health. That's my biggest fear, is that dice mitigation is definitely a thing, and it wrecks Palpatine.
Yeah, and Jedi and Sith, the Force users, they're the least sneaky of all the factions. There is currently no way to cheat his dice out and resolve them immediately, so
yeah.
It's not going to be easy for him. It's not going to be easy street with only 15 health to back him up. You better be hoping that you're drawing shields and things of that nature to keep him around.
Yeah. On the one, so I think we focused a lot on the 28. If you dial back and look at the 21, suddenly that's a lot of health, right? Like, it's for the same cost as Vader, you're getting 2 more health. So you could do like Palpatine Raider, have 2 dice. It sounds like the worst heck ever, but it has more health than Vader, so like, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I just think that while having more health is cute, the reality is he's got a giant magnet, and the Raider's just not scary enough.
Yeah. That
you might as well just look for the damage and put out that second die.
Yeah, I agree. I kind of wish he was 18 health, but in order to do that, you couldn't even have the single die side. It'd have to be like he's 28 cost, he's elite, and he's 18 health. So there's just no way around making him 18 if you're going to have the single die side. So
yeah, I would have loved to see him just maybe have like I said, no blanks. So have 6, like maybe a single shield and a double shield, and that way you're kind of like he's protecting himself and you're resolving damage at the same time. So
yeah, I hope there's a helper card for him. I know you don't think there's going to be, but I kind of think there's going to be a card that says something like, if you're running Elite Palpatine, then
see, that's just that's so garbage. I would rather it be something where it's like you were saying that you had an idea for like an ability that works when you have one character. That might be something that I could see. I do believe eventually they will have something to do with the points, because obviously, like, why make them 28? Yeah. Is it just some algorithm that you're plugging in to just kind of confuse us? But I'm not convinced they're going to be like, this is a Palpatine card. Maybe it's something else. Maybe there are cards that will clearly be a great Palpatine card, and that I can see that. But I really hope they don't print the word Palpatine on a card just making it for him. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, the real downside is that if it's an upgrade that helps Palpatine a lot, It's going to be really problematic because you're going to want to put you have one dude, so you got to put 3 upgrades on him, and if one of them is like the keep Palpatine alive card, it's going to be kind of annoying that now you only have 2 slots left for upgrades.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I'm not sure how they'll handle it. He looks like a fun mini-boss to fight, and I'm sure there'll be some times where you just lose to Palpatine just because he does so much damage. Yeah. If he resolves 4 dice in the first 2 turns, because you're not going to kill him turn 2, likely. Yeah. If he resolves 4 dice, 8 damage. It's so much damage, much less the damage he's doing.
And what if he puts a Force Lightning on him that first turn with a holocron?
Well, then you're probably pretty sad.
You might have just lost. All right, so let's talk about Force Lightning. This is the card where I go, remember Jason, when I said I was real worried about Holocron and the future development of the game? Yeah, I'm more worried. A 4-cost, insane ability upgrade that makes Mind Probe look like garbage is what Force Lightning is.
Yeah, it makes me feel like they really missed the boat with Sith Holocron in a lot of ways. Even though it's so powerful with Force Lightning, I can't believe, I was saying this last night, I can't believe I've never thought or even heard anyone say this. I'm sure someone has said this, but I don't know why the Sith Holocron doesn't just work with villain cards.
Yeah.
Because that would make more sense. Obviously, we have Force Lightning now. That would still be really great, but then you're not also getting the Force throws and the Mind Probes off as well. Yeah. But here we are, Force Lightning. Yep. Its die is nuts. It costs 4. It has a 2 damage, 2 range damage, 3 range damage for $1. 4 range damage for $1, and then 2 specials and 1 blank. And its special is deal 1 damage to a character. You may remove a die showing a blank to reroll this die instead of removing it from your pool. So you can resolve that, remove one of their blanks, and you get to reroll your dice. And much like all the other upgrade abilities, for blue, it's blue character only.
Yeah, it is 4 range damage on side is freaking crazy. That's just insane. 4 damage?
Yep. Oh, yeah, I mean, it's very strong. It's kind of bizarre, really.
Yeah. And like you said, the special works on either player's die. In my video yesterday, I had a brain fart for a second and didn't read the card appropriately, and I got like 1,000 messages. So I learned a valuable lesson, Jason. Don't be wrong on the internet.
Ask Jason first.
Oh, man, it was a rough day. It was a rough day.
You kind of tried to ask me. I didn't answer, to be fair.
But it was good.
The
card looks good.
No, it's good, and it's very easy to. I mean, who hasn't overread a card, right? You kind of like, oh, okay, well, I see its ability, but whatever, and you kind of move past it. This is a very strong card. It's just a monster. There's really nothing you can say about it. It's just kind of like there's a ton of damage on a card. Better figure out a way to kill that character.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. You want a lot blue upgrades. You were a little bit mopey about your abilities not having enough damage sides on them. Here you go. Problem fixed. Yeah,
it's a trap.
It's an amazing card. Next up is Jyn Erso.
Sure.
Jyn Erso is very interesting to me. I feel like 1520 is a lot for her. That's my whole evaluation of her. Is she has 11 health, which is great. It's 1 more than Han, but it's really way less than Han with his ability. 1520 is a lot, Jason. That is a lot.
It is a lot, but she follows the kind of suite that all the 20-plus characters have, and now I guess I'll even say 19-plus characters in a way, because Krennic is kind of like this. You really get something for free, right? You got Vader, who discards the card. You got Luke, who draws the card. You got Palpatine, who does the damage. Now you have Jyn Erso, who's like the resource, right? Because you can play a yellow event. The first yellow event you play, each round is decreased by 1. And there are a lot of great yellow events, specifically in Hero, that do some really nasty stuff.
Oh, yeah.
We've got cards as crazy as Reversal or Hyperspace Jump, or as simple as Electroshock. That money is going to be really valuable. And on the flip side, compared for Yellow Hero, let's think about the Yellow Heroes. We've got Hired Gun, Han, we've got Padme, and we've got Finn, right? Finn you don't see a lot of. Padme is a mill character, so if you're looking for damage, you're going for Han or Hired Gun. While both of them have great resources, they cost resources to do their damage too. She has 2 great damage sides of 2 and 2 that do not cost any resources, so she's going to be really resource efficient in what she's looking to do. And she has a very dedicated concept in mill, because she has a 1 mill and a 2 mill as well as a resource. And that's just going to be really frustrating to play against. Even if you're not milling out your opponent, reducing their options and reducing their control options and things of that nature it's just frustrating.
Yeah. She's basically like a better Jabba, and Jabba's awesome. Like
Yes.
when you don't hit the mill side on Jabba, you're like, ah man, I was gonna wreck their hand. And when you don't hit it on Jin, you shoot them in the face. I'm like, that's not bad. It's not a bad alternate plan.
But she is rather expensive compared to.
Yeah, she's so
I think
expensive.
that-
Like
I
she
think
just
that she's
does
got-
not seem quite good enough to be that expensive. But I will say this: there's a new design direction that they explicitly stated that they want to have characters that are more dedicated to what they do, and I really like that direction. Like, okay, you want Mill? She's got 2 Mill sides. You got Mill. I really like that.
Yeah, and I think it's really nice. It looks really good on the card. It feels really good when you play it, I'm sure. And I don't mind that they had these more general characters originally. I think that's good
Yep.
too.
Yep.
So I think it allows us to have diversity and have a concept that they can put in that makes this character different. There is no character like Jyn Erso for your heroes currently. If you want that, you want that yellow, you want that economy, you can play her and be very satisfied.
Yep, totally agree. I don't know where to evaluate her only because of her cost. Without her cost, she's great. Love her.
Yeah, if they get a 15 cost character that's fantastic with 2 dice,
Yep.
3 dice, and that ability to get free resources,
Yep.
it's really good.
Yeah, agreed. Next card, Rebel Assault, 0 cost. Play only if you have 1 or more dice showing range damage. It's an event. Remove an opponent's die not showing range damage. So it's a really interesting mitigation, right? If somebody's blitzing you down, this does not help against that.
No, this is humongous. They needed this really bad because the Rebels specifically already have Guardians on the Rebel Trooper, so you're able to deal with the damage. You have a lot of other cards like Defensive Position that can remove things that are higher than 2, so any damage or other types of things that are higher than 2 you can remove, but they never had a way to deal with the special icon
Yep.
other than flank. So now we can remove specials. That's humongous. That holds Rebels back a lot because they do a lot of chip damage. Things like Force Throws and Force Chokes are absolute monsters against the Rebels. So being able to control that with Rebel Assault is going to be very important for red hero decks moving forward. So I'm very excited for it.
Yeah, I think it's a great card also for those exact reasons. But I love how you said it's going to really help us out. Since you've been playing so much red hero, you now consider yourself one of the red heroes.
I just love the red cards because they're so tricky and fun, and specifically in the hero branch, I think they have a lot of my favorite cards in the game. So I've been playing red heroes. It was funny, I actually piloted at the first tournament, and I had only played it 2 games online before that. And I was like, let's just play this. It's super fun. I went 3-2 and had the ability to go 4-1 very easily with just like 1 pip of a different roll.
Yeah.
So I was really proud of how it went. And then I've been playing it ever since. So it's a lot of fun. It's just a lot of fun. Does a lot of cool things. So
Yeah,
I'm
it
very
did
excited
really
to
well against my Luke Akbar deck last night when I kicked its butt twice in a row. I was impressed.
Yeah, it got absolutely obliterated by that. But that's also the first time I've lost to Luke Akbar with it. So I still think I owe you another set.
Yeah.
So we'll
I
we'll
rolled
give it
so
that
well, I renamed that deck. It used to be called Skybar. Now it's called Luke Rolls 3's Akbar. It's good. It's good.
It wasn't just that. I mean, the Luke Akbar deck is very good as well. So I think that it's a very interesting matchup because of how the damage can be allocated and fighting for the battlefield and things like that. But I think that Rebel Assault, great card. Very excited to see it. I think if you like red heroes, you'll be excited to have this too.
Agreed. I think that a card I'm really excited about, probably the most of the non-characters, is Your Eyes Can Deceive You. And it's a support. After one of your dice rolls out a shield, you may exhaust the support to turn an opponent's die to any side. And so basically, whatever it had said before the turn a die to any side part, I would have loved this card because it's basically just repeatable mitigation, not even based on resolving anything, just rolling things. And that is an incredibly powerful skill.
Yeah, I agree. It lets you do it on the fly. It helps you if you're looking to grab battlefields. It doesn't actually require an exhausting action, which is very nice. And it gives you, like you said, repeatable control. Blue heroes have probably the worst control in the whole game, other than maybe red villains. Although red villains have some pretty good ones. No, I take it back. Red villains do have a lot of good ones.
Yeah.
We're going to say blue heroes probably have the worst. And I think that this is really going to help them because they have these really big chunky characters that are very important to how they play. You want to put great strong force powers on them and shove them into your opponent, and if they go down fast, you cannot win. So this is very helpful.
Yeah, and a lot of the blue hero dice just randomly have shields on them. Like they just have like you roll Luke and you're like, dang it, I got the shield. Oh no, what I meant was awesome, I got the shield. Now I'll use the card I drew for him to re-roll to get the damage.
Yeah, it's you don't have to take it. That's the best part about it. You roll the shield, you use the ability, and then you can move forward and reroll for damage or for focus or whatever you're looking for.
And it's
very good.
Just dawned on me. It's not unique. You could have 2 of these out every time you roll a shield. You turn 2 dice out.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
Wow. Yeah, that's going to be a really foundational card in blue decks, I think.
You get a pair of these and a pair of binds all things, and you're set, man.
Oh my goodness. All right, now we're going to go to the splashiest of these events. Never Tell Me the Odds. 3-cost yellow event. Choose one of your yellow characters. Turn any number of his characters and upgrade dice to sides of your choice. So, if you got your Han loaded up and you whiff, Jason, what do you do?
You never tell him the odds.
Yeah, you never tell him the odds, but what card out do you have before that, hopefully?
You're looking to have the ability to make this card an ambush card, which Infamous allows you to do when you exhaust it. So you just have your Infamous out, play Never Tell Me the Odds, tap it, go ahead and fix all your dice, and go ahead and activate them. Even crazier, if you want to do the real Rube Goldberg machine, is in Han-Ray. What? What are you rolling me?
Whoa.
Oh, the real Rube Goldberg machine. You play an ambush if you have $1 billion, of course.
Yeah.
You play an ambush on Ray.
Uh-huh.
So you play that out. It gets you 2 actions. You roll Han, and then you have Infamous out, and you play Never Tell Me the Odds. And before your opponent can even do anything, you could potentially. How much damage can we do with Han in one go? We could probably roll 3s on all of his dice, right? If you had unlimited money.
Yeah.
So we're looking at up to 15 damage with Han.
Sure.
Crazy.
That'd be pretty good. You rolled
Crazy.
all blanks, turn them all in damage, or do 15 damage. Your opponent just dies and cries.
Yeah, I mean, with Infamous, which is already going to be in a Han deck, this card is absolutely bonkers. It is really expensive, but it needs to be, because if it doesn't, you're just screwed.
Yes. I'm wondering if it's a one of, like, let's say this was in Awakenings. Would this be a one of or a 2 of in a Han Ray deck, do you think?
It's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough because what's going to happen is you're going to play this card and you're going to win a game.
Yep.
And then you're going to have this card in your hand. You're not going to be able to play a card that you should have been able to play, and you're going to lose the game because you didn't have cards that you could play. So it's really tough. I think the gambler, the real smuggler, the real rogue is going to play 2 of these. And otherwise, you're probably just dropping 1.
Yeah.
But like I said, you're going to play 2 Infamous in your deck. And another card that I really like that Tiny doesn't like is I don't even know what it's called. It's the Ambush Support that costs 0.
Yep.
That lets you look at your opponent's hand.
Yep.
Information, something like that. So what you do is you're going through your turn, you have this card in your hand, and then you hopefully they play 1 or 2 cards out of their hand, so they have 3 cards in their hand. And before you Never Tell Me the Odds, you go, I'm gonna look at your hand. Oh, you have no way to deal with this roll. You can even fix it without Infamous and have no fear of losing your dice.
Yeah, I actually that information card is so interesting because, I mean, it's just good to know what your opponent has, right? Like, it's good to know.
So good to know what your opponent has. You can do so many more things if you're not playing around cards.
Yeah.
And remember, it is a take cover in the Han Ray deck because it costs 0 and has ambush.
Yep. I think I've come around on it more and more. The problem for me is not that I didn't like that card. I love the card. It's more there's so many good cards in Han Ray that I already don't have in there that I look at it and I'm like, this is one of the ones that if it was a 40-card deck, it'd be in there.
Yeah, the deck is just really weak to some very specific removal, specifically dodge and deflect.
Yeah.
So not knowing, like, it's so easy to bluff. I mean, how many times have you had Sith Holocron die, get removed, and you don't even have a power in your hand?
Yeah. Favorite thing
right?
in the game.
Like, knowing that it's just so big.
Yeah.
And while it does hurt you in the claiming of the battlefield, which the deck is really good at and really wants to do with the graveyard, you can still win with that deck if you're being smart with your dice and looking to reroll when you need to and looking to fix certain things and stretch that damage. And if you know that you could stretch that damage out by taking many actions to get your dice perfect, that's really powerful. I mean, it's the difference. It could be in a Han Ray deck, it's literally the difference between maybe upwards of 6 damage. Like, it can be that significant.
I agree. Yep. All right. Well,
So
let's move on to the other spoilers that we don't have, like, the full spoiler of.
Sure. Well, we got the okay. Sorry.
Do some guessing.
Some guessing.
Let's start with Supply Line. Even if Supply Line's special was there is no special, I feel like this is a pretty good card.
I feel like what does Supply Line do? It's resources, obviously, bring it to. I think it might let you play a card from your hand doing like some maybe cheaper card, play a card from your hand cheaper, maybe.
I'm kind of wondering if it's get the top X card from your discard pile, like it's the supply line, like you're reacquiring it.
That's so broken if that's how
Yeah, I know. I don't, but it might be very specific, right? It might be like
Sure.
get the top. I don't know.
It would have to be
red
upgraded,
event
right?
or
You'd think
something.
so.
I don't know.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know. That's interesting. It's good. It is red. Let's note that it's red. Supply line, I feel like it's going to be neutral. That's kind of my feel.
I agree.
So this is a great card for those Death Troopers. This is a great card for just red in general. I know like Akbar, I'm always playing with Datapad, which Datapad's fantastic, but this has a focus and a special.
Yeah.
So it's very versatile.
I mean, just imagine you're running a deck like that wants to put out big things, and you can have 2 data pads, 2 supply lines. Like, that's pretty cool. The option to be able to do that, I really like.
Yeah, it makes you have a red, like a reason to run red. So it's.
I'm gonna guess the Death Trooper has. Just kidding. We're not gonna guess about the Death Trooper. We know. All right, we're gonna go to Chirrut Imwe. I don't know.
Chirrut Imwe.
Imwe. Okay. People have really complained about his sides. It's a 1 damage, a +2, a 2, a +1. I mean, with Awakening, it's not that bad. Like, that's a pretty darn good die.
Yeah, it's very consistent, and I like that he has 2 melee rather than like a 1 and then a plus. So he still has. Let's dial it back to comparing it to other characters. He has a 1 gun and a 2 melee, okay, and then 2 modifiers. Now, this does have some benefit because if you're playing kind of a mixed deck, which obviously isn't ideal, but you can do more. But the 2 melee, I would argue, is generally better than 2 ranged because it's less likely to do damage for reflect or deflect.
Yep.
It's less likely to get dodged, and it pops hunker downs.
Yep.
So I do like that he has more melee than he does ranged, which is super nice.
He's got 11 health. That's pretty solid.
Yep.
He looks to me like that's a 12. I'm going to guess like a 12, 16.
I agree. It looks exactly like 12.
Yeah. So
It'd be great if he was 15, and then
Yeah.
you could play with Jin.
Yeah, 12, 15, 12, 6. Actually, I think 12, 15 just specifically to pair with Jin would be pretty reasonable.
It would.
He's
So
really,
you can't play blue abilities on him.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Like, that's half the point of playing blue usually is to get the abilities. They
Yep.
don't have guns. They don't have anything good. They just have a couple of sabers. So it tells me that there's probably going to be some cool new blue stuff in the new set. Maybe his staff or something will be in there. Could be interesting.
Well, you can play like Luke's lightsaber on him, right? And lightsaber.
Yep.
And then it says he has an ability that says after you activate this something, something LL, all of your, likely, because it's a Y.
Yep, I agree.
So after you activate, you can do something with all of your die.
I think
it's good.
After you
Go ahead.
activate this character, you may roll, because there's the double L, all of your...
Blank sides because he's blind.
Oh yeah, could even be reroll, in fact.
Yeah, re-roll all of your something.
Yeah, reroll all... Yeah, maybe that. Maybe reroll... What if it was reroll all of your modified sides?
What if it was re-roll...
Interesting.
God, this is just a glorified comlink.
I don't know.
It's probably not
interesting, though.
great. It's probably not great.
Yeah, we'll see. He could be reasonable. The card...
He's one with the Force.
What's that?
He's one with the Force.
He is one with the Force. The card that's most exciting, I think, out of this page that we haven't seen yet is Personal Shield. This card seems nuts.
Yep, and it doesn't. I mean, I know it could be neutral, but it looks rather happy to be neutral.
It looks happy,
So-
you said?
It looks just like it doesn't look like super bright and like colorful compared. Like look at all the cards, and this one's like, hey, I'm just tuning into my Walkman on my hip here. We're just having a good time. Look at this jacket from 1976. It's having a great old time, turning up the tunes.
I mean,
yeah,
this
it looks awesome. The
this
card looks
did
great.
take place a long time ago. So 1976 is a long time ago now.
Before the attached character is dealt 1 or more range damage, you may exhaust this upgrade to give the attached character 1 shield. I mean, I'm going to read it just how it is.
Yeah. I mean, it's Dooku. You turn them into Dooku as long as they're shooting ranged at you. That's super strong.
Yeah, I mean, this is really kind of helping slow down that damage, right? And especially if this is specifically only heroes, it's going to be so annoying to take down some of these heroes. Someone like Han with a personal shield, hunkered down, second chance. Like, this guy's not dying.
Yeah.
Personal shield represents a lot of health.
It really does. It feels like any deck that wants to stall somehow has this huge opportunity now with hunker downs and personal shield and second chance with the yellow guys. It feels kind of crazy. Like, I'm a little bit worried. The good news is it's an upgrade, so it takes a slot. So yeah, you get to keep them alive forever, but to what purpose, right? They need to be doing something.
Yeah. It looks good on like a Guardian who can just block that damage, soak it up, then eventually heal up.
Yep. Also, Jin. Like a 2-die Jin that's looking to mill you with a personal shield, a second chance, and a hunker down. Good luck killing her.
Yeah. It's pretty gross.
All right, so those are the spoilers. And then today...
Secret foreign spoilers.
Like there's some Russian magazine or something. I don't know what this is. It has some dice on it only, no cards. But
it's
boy,
probably the back of a distribution magazine.
What's that?
Sorry to interrupt. It's probably the back of like a distribution magazine. Yeah, is what I'm imagining.
But so it looks to me like we've got like an old hermit Ben, R2, and what's this gal's name? Maz something.
Yep, Maz, whatever.
We'll call her a Maz.
No, she's like Maz Kanaka or something. I don't know.
I'll go with
I'm gonna do everyone a favor. I apologize. Yeah, see, I knew it was Maz Kanata.
Cool.
See, Kanata. I said that the first time.
I didn't even guess because I had no idea what her last name was. I just know her as the chick with the giant eyes that looks cool.
So yeah, you got Maz, Old Ben, and then of course R2 freaking D2.
So question, is R2 going to be a support or like a 3-cost character?
I think he's going to be a support, unfortunately.
I do too. Also, unfortunately. I think they set the precedent with BB-8, right? Like an influential droid is a 1-cost support. I could see R2 maybe being 2, but looking at those dice, that looks like a 1 to me.
So let's look at Old Ben real quick. He's got 1 melee and then what I believe to be 2 focus. Is that what you believe that to be?
I don't have it.
It's definitely a 2. He has a 2 side, and I think it's a focus because it looks kind of rounded a little bit. And then I've got Maz, who's got a shield and a gun, and then R2's back there. He definitely has a 1 focus, and it looks like he has I think it's like a 2 disrupt actually.
If it's a 2 disrupt, he might cost 2. I can't tell if that's a 2 or a 1.
Oh, he's going to cost 2. He's not BB-8. It's freaking R2-D2. Do you know how long this guy's been around since he's been wiped?
He's amazing.
He's just a monster.
He's just amazing.
He's a monster.
Like if you watch the Clone Wars TV show, it's really cool.
When he fights the other droid.
Yeah, I mean, he does all. He's just amazing. He's R2. But the coolest point is there's this one moment where he gets lost, and they're like, "Dude, it's a droid. Like I know you love him, Anakin. We all did. He was great, but he's gone forever." And Anakin's like sheepishly going like, "Well, hate to tell you this, but remember when I was supposed to wipe his mind like 7,000 times? I never did. He knows everything about everything in the history of the world." And they're like, "What? We must save him."
I love the episode where he fights the other droid, and it's like super serious, and they're like fighting each other, and they're like electroshocking, and then eventually like he pushes the one droid off with like because the thing moves, and the guy shoots a little suction cup thing, and they like spits oil on him and lights him on fire, and then like uses a saw and cuts it off. It's actually really sadistic.
Yeah, R2's amazing. I love R2.
And then he flies into Anakin's ship. He's like, this guy can literally do everything.
Yeah, R2 is like the main character of Star Wars. People think it's the Skywalkers.
No,
it's actually
C-3PO and R2-D2.
Yeah,
they're both in.
Well, it's the R2-D2 story, and then his really cruel friend, who he thinks is his friend, but he's really like a bully. No, R2, everyone hates you. Ooh, ooh, ooh. You know?
I love C-3PO. He's my favorite.
I know, but he's like the biggest bully in the Star Wars universe. It's quite funny.
No, he's great. There, it's R2 and I imagine R2 being like a little rich like Middle Eastern prince, and then he has his like cheeky kind of jerkbag interpreter walking around with him, because R2 will say things and then C-3PO will relate.
Okay, I don't know where that went, but okay.
I'm saying like like those the little guys who they're very quiet and they're very controlled. And they actually end up using and speak. They actually end up speaking all the languages, but they just have the interpreter to make it.
Okay.
Create distance between them.
Sure.
That's where I'm going with it.
Okay, that's fine.
So what are these guys going to do?
Yeah. Let's start with R2. I don't know if he'll have an ability. He might just have some sides like BB-8.
No, you can't not have an ability on R2-D2. You just can't.
How about this? Here's one. He has a special, and it's like shock, and it does 1 damage to a person.
What if he has a special and says remove all blanks from your opponent?
That would be totally broken.
R2-D2. What do you want me to say?
It's not
that's what I'm saying.
Come on.
That's what I'm calling. That's a special.
Wow, you're insane. All right, let's move to
You have
Obi-Wan.
to roll the die before they roll all their die. He's just a support on the side. If you get the special, then you roll out. Do you use it immediately when they have the things? They have guns showing. Maybe you want to play some other control, right? Being able to do that is very good, but I don't think it's like, right? If you play Django Veers and they roll up their dice and they have 5 damage showing, but they have 3 blanks, do you remove the 3 blanks or do you try to stop the 5 damage? If you try to stop the 5 damage, they re-roll their dice. I mean, it's not.
Stop being insane, okay? Let's just go there. Let's move on to Obi-Wan. Are they so the question with Obi-Wan is, he looks old there to me. So is he going to be old? Is he going to be like 1 damage, 2 damage, 2 focus, like clearly a support role, Jabba-esque 11-14 character with a kind of mild ability? What direction do you think they'll go with him?
Yes, I do think that. I actually imagine him having an ability like a real, like he's super supportive. I actually think he's going to have 2 1 dies, and then he'll have a double focus. And I want him to have something like when you activate him, he does something for other other blue dice. So like you have to have blue dice on another character to be able to use his ability to be a seer to help you out.
They could steal Jabba's ability and just say re-roll any blue die.
Yeah, which wouldn't be bad either. Yeah, it'd be good.
Yeah, I think it'd be great. Jabba's ability is fantastic.
It looks like he has 2 focus, which would be nuts as well.
Yes. If that's the case, he could still be 11-14 because we saw 2 focus on Akbar as long as he doesn't have a lot of damage.
I can see you being able to play Elite Obi-Wan alongside 1 die Luke. I could see that being them making that a possibility. So like a 15, isn't Luke 15, right?
Oh, along a 1, yeah. No, I could see that. Yeah.
So like 2 die Obi-Wan, 1 die Luke.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, probably not 10 to make it like Elite Luke with him. That's probably a little too good.
That's what I thought you were going with. Yeah, I'm not sure that they would do that. Maz? I have no idea. I don't know anything about Maz. All I know is she's
got to like look at your hand when you activate it or something.
What was that?
Look at your opponent's hand when you activate it.
That would be a really awesome ability, actually. I would love
it would make sense
ability.
for her too, right? Because she like looks into your and that's what she,
she looks into your soul even, right? And she like knows everything about you.
Yeah, so I mean, that would be such a sick ability too. Holy Lord. Yeah, like I don't know. I was gonna say more they could reveal like a certain number of cards from their hand at random.
That'd probably be more likely. Reveal 3 cards from hand.
That'd be real obnoxious to play against every turn, but you would be very good.
The reason it's so good, I could hear a lot of people right now going, "That's not that good. Like it doesn't actually do anything." I call that a pro player ability. Like anytime you can get piles of information, good players can do so much with piles of information. Newer players do very little with piles of information. I really love having cards like that in the pool. You don't want all the cards to be like that. You want there to be different cards that match different skill levels. And right now I feel like there's not a ton of like super high level like top player cards, and that ability would be one.
And imagine if she's like 8 for 1 die, right? Like 8-11, like Balatique level, like where her ability is impactful and you can get it on the cheap, and so you just have to sacrifice some things for her. She probably has really low health anyways, like 7 or 8. So
that'd be great.
She
looks fragile to me.
She's got a shield though.
Yep. But I mean in the movie, like she looked pretty fragile. Like she didn't look like a 15 health kind of person.
She's 11 health.
No, I guess Palpatine looks pretty darn fragile as well.
But that's his thing, though. You think you always estimate Palpatine.
Oh,
that's why.
No, Mace Windu is going to defeat me.
He pretty much just removed all of Mace Windu's blanks with that Force Lightning.
Oh yeah, removed everything about Mace Windu.
So that's a lot of freaking spoilers.
Yes, so many. Oh my
I'm
goodness.
done. I quit Destiny. We're done with this podcast.
We don't have a lot of time left. I want to turn real quick to a deck, the Luke Akbar deck. And the main reason I want to turn here is because it's a really good example of where I feel like the community has gone, which is so cool. When I first started playing, it was basically me and a couple other people on Tabletop Simulator coming up with deck ideas, and then I got my Luke. The first day I had 2 Lukes, and I was building Luke decks, and I built a Luke deck, and it wasn't great. It was okay, but it wasn't great. It wasn't consistent enough, and so I just kind of said, all right, I don't think Luke Akbar is that good. And then the community, comes together. Everyone starts getting stuff, and all of a sudden, everyone's putting their eyeballs on it. And I feel like the community has come up with a really good sort of shell of a Luke deck. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great. Let's recall our last episode where I said it was great, and Tiny disagreed with me, and then yesterday says the words, "I think this is the best deck in the meta."
Wow, I definitely did not say that.
He definitely did say that, and I can get additional proof if required.
I say that all the time. As long as I win like 5 games in a row, I'm like, this might be the best deck ever. I don't
think he thinks it's the best. I don't think he thinks it's the best, but I do think that means he thinks it's better than he said it was last week.
I mean, it's basically the build I had been using was more of a focus, all-in cutesy build, where it's like you have a couple turns a game where as long as you hit a focus, you're going to all in, you have all these dice, you're going to be able to all in and then just win the game pretty much. But when it doesn't come off, then you're relying a lot on Akbar. When Akbar dies, you're in big trouble. This new version that I've been seeing, which is basically all the heal cards, all the shield cards, dug in, defensive stance, field medic, willpower, basically says, bring it. Let me see you kill Luke Skywalker, because you know what my money says? You can't do it.
Yeah, and if you don't have the burst, nickel and diming this guy is going to be real tough. I mean, a well-timed turn of dug in plus field medic for 5 total damage removed, while Luke is still chucking out lightsaber swings left and right. It's not fun to fight against if you don't have the bulk damage to deal with him.
Yeah, Jason, I did the math on this. Let's say the game goes late and you never roll a single shield on a die, but you get all your heal and shield cards. Luke has 28 health.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of health for one man to have.
Yes. So, and what I love about the deck is you get to combine all that shield goodness with cards like Riposte. So I did this really fun play last night where my opponent put an On the Hunt on Django and was like, oh, really? Let me see you play your shield shenanigans now, because nothing's going to happen with them. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is so ridiculous. So turn 1, I discard like 2 defensive stances. And then I'm able to claim the battlefield. I draw up a dug in and a riposte. So what do? I know he's not going to activate Django till I actually roll Luke. So I just go, I got the battlefield, I'll play dug in. And he's like, what are you doing? Why would you do that? Well, because I'm just going to immediately riposte and do 3 damage to Django. It was just a damage spell at that point.
Yeah, and against Django, that's a worthwhile play. 2 cards for 3 damage, very consistent, pretty much unstoppable. That's really good because the goal of beating that deck is to make that happen. Yeah. Playing 2 cards for 3 damage isn't necessarily, and $1 is it's okay. But also with Luke, there's a lot of synergy because he's drawing cards. So while you might have, in a way, wasted the concept, you're likely replacing it with cards that are also going to be healing, also going to be doing the things that the deck wants to do, also upgrading Luke so he becomes a monster.
Yeah, and he really does. I think it was the last game, my buddy had Django with 1 damage on him, 3 shields. I roll Luke plus, plus 2 weapons. We'll say a saber and his lightsaber. And I roll a bunch of damage, and he's like, that's too bad, but I'm going to be fine. So I resolve the damage. He's down to 5. He's still got 5 health. So then I do the dug-in riposte play. Now he's down to 2. And he's like, well, you're done. Like, Akbar's done. There's no leadership. Luke's done. Your turn's over. You have 2... Oh, no. I'm sorry. Let me take that back. I did not do a riposte. I had 2 backup muscles. So I do the 2 backup muscles to get him to 2.
You don't have backup muscle. He has.
But they're exhausted now. They're done. So he's like, I'm safe. I'm done. And I was like, all right, I'll willpower him. And he just looks at me and he's like, you don't have another willpower, do you? Like, tell me you don't have another willpower. And I was like, I will willpower him for the game. So it was a very satisfying way to win.
Yeah, it is, especially when you're under the pressure of the backup muscle and Django and stuff like that.
Yeah.
He was scratching at you.
Yep. So there's a lot of lists going around. Knights of Ren talked about one last week. It's all over, so we're not going to spend all day talking about the list. But I will say I've seen a couple lists floating around that do not have all in. I think you want an all in. Like you want the one at least, so that if you get that 2 focus roll on Akbar and you got the all in, you just wreck them. And then I also think you want at least 1 force misdirect. That card is really good.
Yeah, you need to have some form of removal, because if you don't, you will likely be still in trouble, because a lot of times a card like Force Misdirection might save you more than even a Dug-In can provide of 3 health.
Sure.
Force Misdirection does a lot. And plus, you're not always going to be playing against something that can get around that. People are like, I don't play Force Misdirection because it doesn't stop Django. Well, first of all, Django doesn't always roll his damage.
I mean, it does. You roll a force throw out and you get the gun side, you still stop it.
Sure, I'm saying, yeah, exactly, right? There are ways to do it, but I'm saying people are not even that, just like people are saying that Django can't be messed with, right? Gotcha. And there are lots of ways to deal with it, even blanks, right? I mean, there are ways to mess with his dice that is very beneficial. So
and the special side? The special side is bonkers. You roll out your force throw, it's a special, and you're feeling good. And then they roll theirs out and they get like Mind Probe, Holocron, Force Throw, and a Force Choke, all specials, and they got the biggest smile in the world, and you're just like, I'll take off all of your specials? Okay, cool. That's pretty much your turn, right? Okay, we can move on.
Yeah, it's very powerful for sure.
Yep. So stay tuned. Either later this week or next week, I'll play a game with my build on Tabletop Simulator so you can see how it rolls, since it's so different than the video I had made previously for Luke Akbar. I think this deck is a really interesting deck because it's very aggressive, but it also has staying power. Like the Django Veers deck is super aggressive but has very little staying power. Once you chew down one of those guys, they're in some serious trouble. Luke's got so much health, it's just hard to knock him down.
Yeah, you gotta be aggressive. You gotta pop him. So it's very, very tough.
Yep. All right, Jason, I think that's going to do it for this week. And thanks again for coming on, listening to the Smugglers Den. Again, we're being hosted by swdestiny.com. Go there for all your Destiny needs. Make sure you go to brokenegggames.com. They have not just cool Destiny tokens, but all kinds of tokens. Make sure you put TG Games in the discount code coupon. Go to Patreon's Tiny Grimes. You can make a very small pledge there. You can make no pledge there. Just hang out and talk with us. We've got some topics that are, Patreon people only, some that everyone's talking about. So come on by. And Jason, where can people find you on the internet?
You can just blow me up at JBFlans at Twitter, or you can just find me on Facebook or anywhere else, really, hanging out with Tiny Grimes. A lot of people like to poke at me in the YouTube comments. I love that. I really thrive off that, especially when Tiny Grimes has a different opinion than me and he ends up admitting that he's incorrect.
What?
Those are my favorite times.
I've never been incorrect. Now, I will say this. I have changed my mind with newer information. That's possible, but never been incorrect.
Fair point.
So real quick, Jason, what tier is Vader Raider now? Is it tier 9? Tier 12?
It's moving down. Maybe tier 3 might have been too high for it.
Wow. Okay, there you go. You heard it there. tier
How
7
much do you like
Vader
it,
Raider,
Tiny?
According to Flanzer. Only him. Don't give me the hate.
How much do you like it?
Still love it. Favorite deck.
He's such a liar.
It's moving down. It's moving down every day. I still think it's decent. The problem is it is reliant more so on its tricks than somebody like Luke. Luke's more reliant on just health pool, which is easier to pull off than a trick is coming. It's very hard to stop Field Medic, right? Like, if they have Field Medic, they're playing Field Medic. There's not a lot you can do about that.
It's true.
All right. Well, thanks so much for stopping by, Jason. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week on the Smugglers Den. All right.